I'm in a weird position right now. I'm living in the last year of my 20s. It's hard to come to terms with that. And I realize that no matter how much I go back to the old games that I loved, I don't enjoy them as much anymore. I hardly enjoy video games in general now. A lot of this is because of the way the industry is headed, but I think it's also because I feel like I'm just wasting my life on these games. I don't want to play the same games over and over again, but that's all I really do. I'm tired of playing old games, but the new ones that come out now are just worse games. And I'm mostly talking about AAA games when I say this. I recently got back into my favorite multiplayer game, and I did pretty decent at it most of the times that I played, but I eventually came into a match and found myself up against the top players, and I just could not keep up with them. At all times, they knew exactly what to do. They knew exactly where I was, they knew exactly where I would be, and they were always several steps ahead. I just left before it was over. It wasn't a rage quit or anything, I wasn't rude. I just simply told them this is too much for me, the skill gap is too high for this to be any fun. I then said GG and I left the game. And people have left games on me not saying anything, but I can tell they either rage quit or just weren't having a good time. And I don't fault them for that, I get it. I just look at these other players who are much higher skill level than I am, knowing they played this game for the past 20 years and they're still playing it today. It just makes me think, are these the kind of people I want to be like? These people have been playing the same dead game for 20 years. Some of them act as if being good at it is one of the greatest accomplishments one could achieve. I was at the top once, and I remember having less fun. I actually found myself at times miss being a worse player. These people have sacrificed a lot of their time to be good at a video game that might not ever even see a new sequel, ever again. I just reflect on that, and I don't find taking the time to become insanely good at a video game worth it anymore. Revisiting old games only feels like I'm wasting my time that could be spent on other games that I haven't played yet, simple games. It's a very weird time for me. I don't want to live in the past, but the present isn't all that great either. Today I'm either playing an old game I haven't played yet, or I'm playing one of the very few modern games that are actually good. Shady Part of Me, Stray, and Celeste. These are games that keep me occupied. They're not modern AAA slop. They're simple and engaging. And contrary to what I was interested in as a kid, I find myself nowadays more interested in story games or artistic ones. I loved the mechanics of video games when I was a kid, and I still do, but as I've gotten older, I believe what's more important now is what a game can leave me with when I'm done with it. Games like Deus Ex, Soma, Peppered, and Disco Elysium. These games are very focused on narrative and heavy in philosophy. Other games like Visage, Edith Finch, Stay Out of the House, Liza P., American McGee's Alice. These games provide a unique sense of immersion, tell a good story, or just keep you occupied in a nearly meditative state. They're not games that are trying to cram so much into it and appeal to every possible audience out there like modern AAA games are. They're just great works of art that are unapologetically what they are. The old Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein are fantastic games to play as well. These shooter games from the 90s that I also recently got into kept me entertained, and the gameplay in each of these games is super simple. Wolfenstein 3D is capable of being played with just one hand, and it's fun. I have found myself leaning more into these kind of games. I'm more content just playing the simpler stuff. A good story, a thought-provoking game, or a game that keeps you decently occupied is really all I need. Ironically though, I still feel like I'm missing something, and I believe what I'm missing are the things that could be possible in AAA games. All of these studios have the capacity to create greatness, but they're now more focused on nickel and diming the consumer and putting gameplay or story on the back burner. While I'm complaining to an extent, I'm also pretty grateful. I got to grow up with the best of the industry. I got to grow up on games like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Metroid, Spider-Man on the PS1, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Ape Escape, Halo 1, 2, and 3, Call of Duty 1 to Modern Warfare 2 in 2009, Gears of War, Oblivion, the Rainbow Six Vegas duology. I got to experience the gaming industry at its absolute peak. I got to go to midnight launches. A lot of people in the younger generations don't even know what that is, and I actually feel a bit bad for them. They are never going to get to experience what people like myself got to experience. Companies today are trying to normalize predatory practices so they can get people hooked when they're young. There will be a point where people forget that microtransactions were not a thing in video games. People pay a third of the game's price for a skin. People celebrate when games are optimized on day one now. A lot of games make the consumer pay more just to play it on day one and call it early access. They trick the consumer into believing they're getting early access when in reality, they paid more money to play it on time. Games are much bigger in storage size now, yet the content itself isn't all there. Now, I could keep complaining and list a few other things, but like I said, I'm actually grateful. I was born in the right time to experience what I believe to be the best. Now, to circle back to my original point, I also believe it's time to move on. With modern gaming the way it is today, I think what we need to do is look somewhere in the middle. There are still games releasing today that can provide the consumer with an acceptable experience for an acceptable one-time price. But it's not AAA, at least in most cases. There are only a few names left you might be able to trust. From Software, Larian, a few others. But aside from them, the place to look is indie. Indie games hit the spot more than old and new AAA games do. It's very weird to be in my spot. The games I grew up on were considered AAA. They were the best of the best. Now we have smaller studios creating those same experiences and AAA studios just creating slop. It's a bit depressing, but as somebody that got to experience the greatest era of gaming, maybe it's best just to be grateful that I got to experience it at all. Like I said earlier, gaming today it's a lot different, and the people who are getting into it now, they will never get to experience what it used to be. I feel very grateful for that. I got to have that experience. I feel like that's a gift. But those are my thoughts. That's it. Bye.